joining us. Welcome to the Gals and Gear Tech Talk. Yeah, let's have some applause. Come on. Thank you. All right. I'm Amy DeLouise. I'm the founder of Gals and Gear, and we're so happy to have this fabulous panel with us today, who I will introduce you to momentarily. I do want to give a shout out to those watching on live stream. We have a Gals and Gear Techquity Talk live stream going on from the show with our student team and their volunteer mentors from across the country. So let me shout out our students from ASU. Thank you for being here and running around. They're learning what it's really like, people. I hope they stick around in our industry after learning that. So without further ado, I do want to thank our lead sponsor, AWS, also represented by one of our speakers, Dell and NVIDIA, and our partners in the Techquity Talk, Chiron, and our camera partners, Blackmagic. And you can all join us at a happy hour right afterwards in the Connect conversation zone. So don't stay here to conversate. Go over there to conversate because there's another panel. Okay, so for this Tech Talk, our spotlight is on virtual production. And I want to just quickly introduce our fantastic panel, and you'll hear more about what they do when we ask them questions. So Katrina King on the end there, Global Strategy Leader, Content Production for AWS. She has an incredible career as a technologist. She has authored more than 10 patents in film and television production, interactive streaming, and cloud-based production. She recently won the HPA Engineering Excellence Award. So welcome to you, Katrina. Thanks for joining. I know, right? I mean, that's some stuff. These women have chops, I'm telling you. Next up, we have Helen Kim, Executive Director of Graphics Technology in Creative Services for Fox Sports. She basically runs the visual identity and technical approach of Fox Sports, which, as you might imagine, is a lot of graphics. Am I right?
It is
a lot.
A lot of graphics.
Yeah.
A lot.
So, and she establishes the workflow for their remote and studio support, so she knows a lot about their amazing, fairly recent virtual production workflow, so that's why she's here. And so give her a shout out. And we also have Leah Robson, just to my left and your right. She has a passion for storytelling. I like to call her a virtual production pioneer because she's worked on some really new, very recent virtual production technology during COVID, which I know was recent. I know we like to think it wasn't, but it was recent. And she's got some really interesting experiences, both with LED volumetric, with all kinds of productions in various narrative and nonfiction spaces. So I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Welcome, Leah. So to get us started, I just want to run down very quickly before we get into the meat of it, and I'll start just right on down the line, starting with you, Katrina. Just what are you doing right now that's super exciting to you?
I think some of the more exciting things that we're seeing right now in virtual production, I mean, we're getting to the point now where this isn't a science experiment anymore. This is real technology that real productions are using to accelerate their timelines. I'm hearing stories of people shooting 20 pages a day. The other thing I find really exciting that we're doing right now is the evolution of cloud-based studios, inclusive of virtual art departments. Every year lately, we've been producing a short piece of content, and we're going to play it in a little while here. But we built a studio in the cloud this year, and we collaborated with the Modern Film Consortium, Ron Ames and Jesse Kobayashi, who produced Lord of the Rings, and DNEG 360 in order to produce this piece of content. And we had artists in LA, Vancouver, Idaho, Denver, Montreal, London, Switzerland, and Turkey, I believe. Oh, and Boston. All working in a singular environment, collaborating on the same environment, leveraging the same Perforce instance, drawing and working all together in real time. And so as these cloud-based environments evolve, we're able to do a lot more with less.
Wow. Who lost the most sleep? Which time zone?
LA.
Oh, dear. So, Helen, how about you? What's something really exciting you're working on right now at Fox Sports?
Well, right now, it's, at Fox Sports, it's very much based on our upcoming events. And this summer, we are doing the Euros for the first time. And we have an LED volume for our studio, pre-games, things like that. So we are working on sort of an immersive environment for the Euros, which is
Ooh.
a long way from where we came from like a year ago when we just launched our LED volume. So it's been really exciting to see how all of this technology has been growing and how quickly our artists have learned how to, you know, learn that we're limitless when it comes to like what we can do visually with our LED volume. So yeah, really excited.
Fantastic. We're going to dive into more of that. And how about you, Leah? What's fun and interesting and exciting that you're working on?
I've just been excited about how like accessible virtual production has become. I mean, it used to be like a big exciting thing and maybe you did it for just sci-fi, and now it's just becoming down to like even small projects, it's applicable in some way. And even if you're like walking around here, it seems like half the booths have some level of virtual production integrated and LED walls everywhere. And yeah, I just love seeing people actually use it more tangibly and like seeing that the scope start to like funnel down to everyone being able to put their hands on it.
That's fantastic. The democratization of production has already moved into virtual, which is really exciting, I think. So I want to ask about sort of where we've come. You mentioned a little bit, Helen, about how long it's taking to evolve a new project. And I'm wondering if you can give us just, because you built out that whole virtual production workflow for Fox Sports, just a little window. I know there are many windows. One window into some of the challenges and how you conquered them.
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, all of it was a challenge. My understanding, my boss said this to me, we were the only live multi-camera broadcast at the time when we built out our volume, which was 2022. It goes by so fast, but it was just, the scope of it was really overwhelming for us. We had a short turnaround time where we tore down our practical set and decided to use an LED volume to help tell a story, to be able to put up more environments during our NFL Sunday show and our other sports broadcast studio shows. We had experimented with it a little bit with a green screen environment in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we do a race hub show. It's NASCAR programming. And so we did learn about how to build these environments quickly and efficiently. But then when it came to this volume, it was just, it was overwhelming. It's like 40 by 26 by 20. It has 1,100 like 4K LEDs.
Oh my gosh.
We're doing weekly productions where we're turning around, environments and, just set content and different interactive type graphics in days. And it was crazy. So just the collaboration also with vendors across the world. Like we were working with vendors from Croatia, from Israel, from Australia. I mean, that was kind of new to us. Like the scope of it was so much bigger than what we're used to.
And also probably collaborating with talent, right? Because the talent wasn't used to necessarily this environment. I mean, that could probably be a whole panel, but can you just give us a little window and how could you test that with talent?
We kind of threw them. I think with the green screen set was a little bit more challenging, but with the LED volume, I mean, we work with former athletes. We work with football players and baseball players, and not to say that they don't have the broadcast skills, of course they do, but I think they're not used to having to you have to stand right here on this mark, or you have to be careful when you throw the football. We had, I think, one talent, just
careful where you throw the football.
Yeah,
there might be a sensor right there.
Spike the football right on top of our very expensive LED screens, and we're just like, oh my God, what's happening? So yeah, it was challenging, and especially we use a ghost frame technology, so it's it's all very blurred. There's different perspective from each of the ghost frame slices. So, we had to learn to show them, we can turn it off and they can actually see the environment behind them. But, they're professionals and they were great and they got used to it. So it was good.
Fabulous. So Leah, you built out a second gen studio at Orbital. I'm sure there were many challenges. Again, you can't tell us all of them, but maybe pick your favorite challenge and how did you get around it?
I mean, I call it second generation because we already had, Mandalorian and some of the big flashy ones out. And it was cool because we took the time to build a test facility before we built a permanent LED wall, because there were so many rumors of things you can and can't do. And we all have heard rumors that's like, oh no, they secretly rotoscoped everything, or like whatever. It's like you can fix so much in post if you've got enough money that it's like, does this actually work, And we invited a lot of the titans of virtual production to come visit this test facility and, tell them, ask them, like, what can you not do? And they'd say, oh, well, you can't shoot in broad daylight, or you can't shoot 3 feet from the wall. And we took the time to figure out how to break those things and test those things until we, had prototyped the exact type of panel we want with the right pixel pitch. And taking the time to do that testing made it so that when we built a permanent facility, we'd thought through these choices. We got to learn from the people that went before us.
Right. So Katrina, you've been on this virtual production journey a long time. Any obstacles you want to share with us and how the solutions evolved?
I think one of the big obstacles that we're seeing is this is a highly niche field, and the personnel necessary to be able to scale it is limited. If you look at what companies like Vue are doing, they've built a global network using the AWS cloud in order to be able to enable a small number of experts to service a large number of stages. And that's now expanding globally to include Europe and Asia as well. But other challenges that we still are facing are, this is a highly technical field, and being able to create automation is going to be ultimately what allows us to be able to scale this, because the expertise required will only get us so far. And I think there's opportunity for technology to come in and help with that. And then another area is color. And I mean, when we look at the short I'm going to play, you'll see color can be very, very challenging. And I think in the long term, there's an opportunity for things like generative AI to be able to assist, to be able to create those efficiencies necessary to be able to continue scaling.
So you mentioned you have a clip, so I'm giving a fair warning to our remote team that we have a clip coming up, as they made me promise to tell them that.
Not quite yet, though.
But not quite yet. Can you give us some insights, Katrina, into some of those new developments in virtual production? Because there's a lot on the horizon, or maybe we're already at the horizon.
Well, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cue up the clip now. So every year at NAB, we try to push the envelope and create a piece of content that really tests not only the technology that we are seeing come out from our partners, but also our ability to integrate it meaningfully into a coherent workflow. And so this year, we took on a project that was kind of well outside of the scope of what we were capable of doing, and we wanted to build a studio in the cloud that was really focused on several beats. The first was generative AI-assisted virtual production. The second is AWS Deadline Cloud-powered VFX. And the third was that it all takes place in this holistic studio in the cloud I was talking about a minute ago. And so to really test ourselves, we had a small team. We wanted to take on something extremely high concept. And so we were sitting around the dinner table one night, and I'm like, something absolutely ridiculous, like Cowgirls on the Moon. And everybody laughed, but nobody came up with a better idea. So on that, I'm going to cue it up, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we used some new technologies and how we integrated existing technologies in new ways in order to allow a very small team to deliver a very ambitious project in a very short period of time. And I'm just going to shout out to Getty Wensinger in the front row, who was our director of animation.
Fabulous. Okay, so let's roll the Cowgirls on the Moon.
In a world where space cowgirls rule the lunar frontier, one group of fearless women blaze a cosmic trail in the moon dust like no other. Armed with laser lassos, bionic unicorns, and a passion for bedazzling the unknown, they patrol the ranges of Mare Tranquility, the moon, in search of adventure and cosmic justice. And just maybe a little more zero-gravity hairspray.
Ride the cosmic waves of style with zero-gravity hairspray.
But when a bothersome bunch of lunar looters threatens to topple the tranquility of the final frontier, Sheriff Starburst must gather her galactic gals for the moon ride of their lives.
You're just another shooting star about to fizzle out, Deputy Dazzler.
Fizzle out? Honey, I'm like a comet. Once I cross you, you'll be starstruck for ages.
From the creators of The Little Green Sheriff and galactic giddy-up comes an epic tale of courage, grit, and a whole lot of cosmic cowgirl sass. Strap on your space spurs, yoke up your unicorns, and prepare for the ultimate lunar showdown. Because when the cowgirls on the moon are in town, the universe had better watch out. Cowgirls on the Moon. Yeehaw to the stars and beyond.
That was really cool to hear of our silly little trailer. So what's interesting about this is we had about 8 people. There's 54 shots in that. Every single one of them incorporates whether VFX, compositing, virtual production, or engine rendered animation. And 8 people delivered that in 8 days, and which is kind of incredible if you think about
That's
it.
amazing.
Yeah. Now we
It
had
must have been 8 37-hour days.
They were very long days.
They were moon days.
They were moon days. But what's interesting about that is, so we leveraged generative AI-assisted virtual production. We used Kubrick to generate all of our sets. It would have been impossible to be able to do that in that time frame without using some element of assistance. So Kubrick generated all of those sets, and then we used the new AWS Deadline Cloud in order to render everything out. We worked with Houdini, we worked with Nuke, we had artists in all of the places that I mentioned before. Everybody was collaborating in a single environment, and artists were able to come and help each other and just log into each other's workstation when there was a problem. And so we put all of these components together. We also used other components of generative AI throughout the process in ways that assisted the artists and just made the days a little bit shorter. And so we were able to crank all of that out in 8 days, which is, and the interesting thing is that the entire workflow of that is being showcased in the AWS booth. So you can see all of the workstations, all of the projects, all of the tools that we used. And if you come to our booth, I've got stickers afterwards for everyone in the crowd that for Cowgirls on the Moon. You can come to our booth and see the entire making of that project manifest in our booth.
All right, Helen, I know you have a clip. This is like dueling clips.
My clip is nothing compared to that clip.
Sparkles?
No
No sparkles?
All right, so
Got it.
tell us a little bit about some of the ways you're innovating at Fox. Cue up your clip.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we're innovating every day because, I think the scale that we're doing this on TV broadcast, sports TV broadcast week to week, I don't think anyone else is doing it. Sorry,
Well,
They
sports
are.
is always at the vanguard a lot of times in our industry because you
Yeah.
are pushing out so much content and your audiences are consuming it in every possible way.
Yeah, exactly. And for us, at Fox Sports, we use the graphics to kind of enhance the story. Fans and viewers are really smart about sports, and so it's just a way of enhancing that whole experience. And for us, I think we are constantly looking at things that will help with the realism and help with optimization of these scenes and helping with collaboration, quick turnarounds. A lot of the clips, they're really short clips of just showing our practical set and the volume, which is using XR, AR graphics. But a lot of those things week to week are turned around in a few days.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, it's a huge departure. It was a huge learning curve over the last couple years, and it's just, I look at it and I'm like, I can't believe we got to this point.
So can we roll the clip?
Yes,
Can we
yes,
roll?
please.
Okay, stand by, everybody in remote world. We're gonna roll the clip from Fox. Okay, can we roll that Helen Kim clip? We can make cowgirls go on the moon, but the clicker probably needs a battery. I brought extra AAAs. They're in my bag if we need them.
Oh, here we go.
There we go. So Leah, you get to wrap this up with what kinds of creative are best suited to virtual production? Is there a limit?
I feel like I have that well, there's not a limit if you have a limitless budget.
Oh, whoever that is, please
money,
step over to the happy hour and
No,
see me
yeah.
after.
I think the conversation I've been having a lot lately is, yes, we're able to do so much now, but when does it actually financially make sense? So I've been talking with a lot of people. They come to me with different creative projects and say, should we do this virtual? I think that's the big question. Should we? So I put together a little clip. Let's roll the clip and then I'll finish talking.
Okay, good. Let's roll the third clip.
But I thought these are a few projects I've done over the last few years, and I think they each are a good example of when virtual production makes sense. Not that they're similar environments, but the thing to overgeneralize, when you're doing a creative piece that's going to have repeating patterns in the location, you can consider doing virtual production cost effectively. So all of those locations in those last clips, you have repeating patterns in buildings, right? When you're doing downtown Los Angeles, a field in Iowa, even, trench warfare. We built a physical trench and the rest was volume, and we would redress the trench. So in that way, now I can shoot 1917 while controlling the time of day and just redressing to be different areas of trench.
Oh.
So that's, again, an overgeneralization. There are a lot of very specific instances where, of course, it makes sense to use virtual. But for your standard, feature you're considering thinking, should I integrate some virtual or not? I think it's a good place to start. If you have a lot of locations that are going to see some repeat, that's when you can jam through those 20-page days a lot faster than you can in the physical world. But if you're doing, a Sorkin West Wing walk and talk, I don't think you should do that on a volume. I think, when you have those very specific start and stops through a location, pulling somebody through with Steadicam, you should shoot that, on a stage the old-fashioned way. So anyway, I thought that was something to put in the back of your mind if you are thinking about doing virtual production. It's a good place to start.
Good. Well, we only have 2 minutes left, so I want to ask each of you to just briefly, we talked about this term democratization. It gets thrown around a bit, but what are some workflows or tools that, everybody here at the show, everybody here in this audience could be thinking about that could make virtual accessible? I'll start with you and we'll just go down the line.
Well, I'll start by saying, come and see what we've done in the AWS booth with our workflow, because we're showing generative AI assisted virtual production, and we were able to create these environments in a matter of hours. We're also showing AWS Deadline Cloud, which is our new render solution that can get a render farm up and running in minutes. And it's cloud native, it integrates with Unreal, and we're also showcasing the entire workflow from that project. It's goofy, but it was a technology experiment, and we did it in partnership with Ron Ames and Jesse Kobayashi. So come and check out what we're showing there, because the entire workflow from end to end allowed 8 people to hammer out those shots in a matter of days.
That's great. Helen, anything that you think is accessible?
Oh, I think that just learning a lot of these programs, things like Unreal Engine, and just educating yourself. There's so much information out there, and videos that I think anyone can go out there and learn, and it's amazing what you can build based off of just tutorials and things out there. Yeah,
That's true. final thoughts?
I would just say the price of stages is going down. I think it's becoming more and more accessible to different levels of production. My partner and I were just joking that we've seen some YouTubes of kids filming themselves with halfway decent lighting in front of their TV, and like sometimes it's working.
Everyone in
So
elementary school will replace
they're
us.
figuring
next
it
year.
out. You know,
Yeah,
a lot of it's
totally.
how well you can match the lighting. I think that's a big part of it. But the tools are getting cheaper. The locations are getting cheaper.
Well, and I'll just wrap up by saying Gals and Gear has a fairly new Tequity Hub that we built last year. It's a virtual space where everybody can meet in very different, spaces and rooms. And one of the purposes of it is upskilling, and we have something on Unreal and some other different tools there. So we think that's really important for women and everyone to upskill and feel and have access to upskilling tools. So that's one of the things we have on the Tequity Hub. I want to thank all of you for being here. A shout out again to our students and mentors who are working so hard to cover everything we're doing at the show. Yay. Come to our happy hour. Thank you to AWS, Dell, and NVIDIA for supporting us and believing that we can have Tequity in this industry, because we can't do any of these cool things if only some of the people are making them. Everybody has to make great content together. Thank you for joining us.